and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you all, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hope what today, hope you're feeling good and always when you world. Hello there, everybody. Today's vid people tube is all about my hero, Mr. John Frusciante. Specifically, I can't say that word. What's my favourite era of John's playing? I get asked this quite a bit, and my favourite era of John is the Californication era. When he came back for the first time and they did Californication, specifically the year of 1999, John's playing in that year to me is the most powerful playing to me he's ever done. Again, just to me though. I'm not saying that applies to everybody because of course it won't and it doesn't. But to me, the year of 1999, John's improvisational guitar solos out on the Californication tour are extraordinarily powerful to me. So much so that my favourite John Frusciante solo of all time is the Scar Tissue final solo in Russia in Red Square in 1999. That solo is one of the only solos to bring me to tears, people of the tube. Literally. And I didn't even know what was going on until the end of the song. And I was just like, I realised, oh my god, I'm blubbering. It was weird. I put it on, and first solo, John didn't do a solo. You know, he just played the chords. Second solo was great. It's an amazing solo. He starts with this really cool kind of like arpeggio thing, like that, and it's just, I mean, that alone is gorgeous. But then he did the last solo, and it just launched in, and he's doing this kind of walk-up line. I'll attempt to play it in a sec, and it just affected me in a way that I didn't really get at the time. I was like, what's going on? And then at the end of the song, I realised I was just roaring my eyes out. I didn't even know. It really affected me, and to this day, people, I find it very hard to listen to that solo, and also really hard to play, because it affects me so much. I'll do the first bit, but this is how John starts it. It's just fantastic. I mean, I can feel it. It actually gets my eyes watering. It really does. It just affects me in a very, very heavy way. I can feel it. It wells me up, people tube. It's made my eyes go all funny. I wonder why. But it really does. There's something about that version of that solo that really gets me. And it's just... It really gets me, and a lot of these solos around that time in the slower songs, like I Could Have Lied, Scar Tissue, if you've been around this channel long enough, you'll know why Scar Tissue is important to me, and why Scar Tissue affects me. But there's something about his playing. I learned a lot, and I took a lot from that period of John, and it's still the period of John I listen to over any other period. I will put on the Bazaar Fest in 1999, or Toronto gig, or Red Square sometimes, because, Scar Tissue, or some of the other ones, and it's just one of those things. And I learnt so much about kind of like holding notes and not using vibrato all the time, because John, around that period of time, and still to this day, doesn't vibrato every note. So John will do stuff like this. There's not a great deal of vibrato use, and it just sounds so somber and mournful, and there's pain in there. You can feel it and you can hear it, and it's just full of emotion, and he's just letting it all out. And again, that's what I want to do with a guitar, is that. I want to be able to pick up the guitar, kick on the DS2, and to be able to emote like John did in 1999. I mean, obviously, John's always been a very emotional guitarist, and that's never really gone away. But for some reason, the period of 1999, it just seems to be more. if that makes any sense. There just seems to be more coming out of him, and I think it was a really important transitional phase for John around that time. So give me one second, people. So there's a lot, a lot to be said for his playing around that time. And John said, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but John said around that time he didn't have much technique, so he was kind of doing what he could do, if that makes any sense. He didn't really have much technique. I beg to differ. He could still play better than a lot of people then. Definitely 1998 when he first came back, he was a bit ropey, but as the Californication tour went on, you could see he got more confident, and he was getting faster, and his technique was coming back. And John's just one of those people that the guitar is always destined to be his first instrument. As much as he can try and run from it, he'll always come back to it. You know what I mean? Like, he can do as much electronic music as much as he wants, but the guitar will pull him back because that's his voice. It was Jimi Hendrix's voice. Jimmy, said in many times, like, he would get so frustrated with the limitations of the guitar, and I can understand that. You've got 6 strings, but you've only got 12 notes, and a lot of things have already been done, mainly by Jimmy. But a lot of things have been done, and it can get frustrating and limiting. But it's like what Jimmy said, something along the lines of, like, some days you'll hate the guitar, you'll absolutely hate it, but you'll always come back to it. Something like that. It's not verbatim, but you know what I mean. Like, he said something along the lines of that. And there's just so much in that period of 1999 that I took from John about being able to emote through the guitar, and it really affected me. Like, really, really affected me. When John would do these kind of solos, like, first solo I Could Have Lied, when he kind of improvises, he'll do stuff like, he'll almost start it out the same way as the album version, but not quite, and he'll kind of go, the melodies are just so sad. I'm messing around in the style, but it's just such a somber way of playing, and it's just absolute, to me, it just can't be beaten. It just can't be beaten. I love things like Slaying Castellan, by the way, and Stadium Arcadium, and those periods as well, and Blood Sugar Sex Magic and stuff like that. But the emotional heaviness that John was emoting during the Californication era tour just hits me really hard all the time. No ifs, no buts. It's always there, and it always just goes in. And like I say, when I listen to the Chili Peppers, I tend to listen to that period of time live or Californication. I listen to, by the way, occasionally, Stadium Arcadium occasionally, but invariably what I'll listen to, if I put the Chili Peppers on, it'll be a live performance from 1999, because and they never get boring to me. I just love it. It just works for me. It really does. And again, those guitar solos that John would do are just heartbreaking. Again, I'm gonna play that the Budokan guitar solo, the last one of I Could Have Lied, for you again. I did it in the intro jam, but again, just listen to the notes over the chords. It's just insane. I made a bit of a mistake there, but it's okay. But I don't actually have words. I really actually do not have the words. It is heartbreaking. They're just... There is something about the note choices and the lack of vibrato and those kind of like half-step bends you would do where... And then full step. It's so good, and it's just beautiful guitar playing. It really is. And again, the sound. Let's talk about that. I do apologise on my phone. The tone that John had around that period of time is my favourite tone of John's. It's a little bit darker. It's more distorted. Especially his dirty clean tone. That's the dirty clean I always try and go for. That's the dirty clean tone I always kind of try and go for. It's not exact, and I don't want it to be exact, because my tone is inspired by. It isn't John's tone. I want it to be inspired by his tone. And the same with the DS2. John's the reason I adore the DS2, because to me the DS2 is just... It's a mournfully sad sounding pedal. And... in a way, it reminds me of the Fender Bass 6. They feel lonely. Because the DS2 is a diva. If you don't give it what it wants, it rebels. It doesn't like you. It will fight you. All things. The moment you give it what it wants, it's very happy. But it sounds like no other pedal. It's definitely one of one. And as a result of that, it always sounds to me and feels to me like it's a lonely pedal. And it's got that mid-range boost. In relation to something like the Governor, which is a bit more of a kind of Mike McCready-esque kind of sound. It's got that more kind of like hollow kind of warmth to it, whereas the DS2 is just really mournful. And it just makes you want to hang on notes. And really kind of like you know, it slows you down as well. I think it just sounds a little bit more vocal. You know, it's a really mournful sound, the DS2, and again, I just can't be without it. I really can't. In all fairness, people with you, there's a bit of a conflict always going on in my head. If I could pick one pedal for the rest of my life, I always get torn between either the Zoom G2.1U or the DS2. Which one would I pick? And I always end up picking the Zoom, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I'd miss the DS2 so much. So I always get kind of like torn up. I think I would still pick the Zoom because I love it so much, but I love the DS2 and I find it very hard to be without that pedal. You know, I really struggle to be without that pedal. In a perfect world, I would have, if I could have two pedals the rest of my life, it'd be the Boss. It'd be the Boss DS2 and the Zoom G2. But you know, these evil things come to taunt us. Anyway, but yeah, so like I say, it's just, there's something about that era, it's extraordinarily powerful. You know, it really is, and it really affects me in a way that kind of like, you know, no other guitarist does. You know, not even people like Rory or Peter Green or Jimmy. You know, John's guitar playing has always affected me on a heavier level than anybody else's. You know, there have been some songs from other guitarists, like, you know, Machine Gun by Jimmy and you know, Bad Penny by Rory. Things like Got a Good Mind to Give Up Living by Peter Green, the live version. My God, man, that's heavy, and it really, that hits hard. But John, his playing really, it does something else to me. It really does do something else to me. It's really, I don't know, it just goes in, and it pulls on the heartstrings, and it makes things really, it gives me comfort. It really does. And not many guitarists' music gives me comfort, but John's always has, and John's playing soothes me. It really does. Especially, again, that 1999 period, it really helps. Especially with my stupid brain firing on all cylinders all the time, trying to ruin me. John's guitar playing like that, it really helps. And again, I aspire to want to be able to do what John did in 1999. That way of playing it feels like John was purging a lot during 1999. There's so much coming out of his guitar, and he can say all he wants, he didn't have much technique, but the fact is that might have been a good thing at that point in time. I mean, he still had great technique, but that maybe lack of technique and inability to do certain things he maybe wanted to do led him down that more melodic road, and I think that was a bit more cathartic, if you will, for him and where he was at the time. And you can kind of hear it in his, like say, that Budokan guitar solo, man. There is no way that's not a purge of something, of some kind of energy inside. That is, and that Scar Tissue solo and some of the other ones he does are just absolute heartbreakers. They really are. And again, I took so much from that period of John, like trying to get the tone kind of to kind of sound like that and be inspired like by that period of time, and also kind of like the bends, the mournful bends, because again I can feel that when he bends it, I can feel it, and it's like, I need to be able to do that. That came to me very early on. Is like, when John makes a bend, when John played, I could feel it inside me. Like, it really went inside. And then when I played, it wasn't there when I first started playing. I was like, well, why when he plays does it affect me, but when I bend it doesn't? And it took me years to get to the point where, like, when I play a bend or play a note, I really feel that note. It vibrates through my entire being. And again, half of that comes from just submitting myself to music and letting it take control. I'm not in control. I don't remember what I do. I just let music take over, and I'm just its marionette. It does what it wants to do with me, and I'm just its sort of conduit. And sometimes it'll want me to express things it wants to express. Sometimes it'll help me purge things from myself that I need to express, but don't necessarily even realise I need to express. And John's playing has helped me do that. That man himself, I have so much to owe John. I owe him so much. I'll never meet him, and he won't know who I am. He won't have listened to my album when he got it, or this, that, and the other. He'll never reach out to me and speak to me, or anything like that. It'll never happen. And that's okay. Because, he's not that kind of person, and that's okay. I don't expect him to do that kind of thing. It's just the way it is. But I still love the man. I love his music. I love his outlook. I love the way he is in certain ways, and I owe him so much, because his music and his guitar playing has saved me on so many levels, and so many times have I just took solace in his playing and his music, and it's given me that reason to just keep going. And again, especially that period of 1999, there is something about that period of time that if I'm at the lowest ebb, if I feel really depressed and I just can't get out of it, if I put on one of those gigs, it brings me back up and it makes me go, no, I can do this, I can do this, I can keep going, I can keep walking, I can keep doing what I'm doing, I can do this. It gives me motivation when I don't have any. And it gives me back perspective of when I play, don't think, let music do it. Music will take over, and it will do what it wants to do, and it will do what it needs to do, and I will do whatever it requires of me. And this is all because of John, and so John, wherever you are in this world right now, probably on tour somewhere, if you can feel this, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate it no end. And yeah, you know, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who John's inspired and helped throughout the years. You know, there's thousands of people that John's helped with his music and his playing, and you know, and the way he talks about things and the perspectives he gives and stuff like that. So yeah, I just love the man. Really important to me. Like, you know, it's amazing to me how some of the most important people in my life I've never met and will never meet. You know, sadly, because some of them aren't here anymore. Rory, Jimmy, Peter, Mike McCready is another guitarist who really affects me. Like, really affects me. His guitar solos really get me. You know, not as much as John does, but they still really get me. But John's like, you know, he's right up there, and I'll never meet these people. You know, I don't feel the need to meet these people. You know, I mean, it would be cool, but you know, it's a fantasy world. That's a pipe dream, and you know, these people don't have time for people like me or anything like that. It's not that kind of thing, and I understand that. I totally get that, and it makes sense to me. And again, they don't, you know, they don't need to do that. They just need to keep doing what they do. That's all that matters, you know. But anyway, there you go, Pooja. I don't know if this has probably been a load of waffle. I don't know, but I really just wanted to explain, you know, what period of John is my favourite and why. Really, 'cause, again, it's just. There's an expression in 1999 in John's guitar playing, the tone, the phrasing, the note choices. That just it hits me like a ton of bricks every time, and it's really emotional for me, and really makes me feel happy or makes me feel sad in a good way, to give me the ability to kind of get certain sadness out of me. That sounds backwards, I know, but it really is. It's weird, but yeah, I owe him so much, that man, and yeah. Anyway, for what it's worth. Anyway, thank you very much, Steve, for watching PeopleTube. I hope, and again, if you're a John Frusciante nut, what's your favourite period of John? Like, you know, what is it and why? Put a comment in the comment section below of why, you know, the Bloodsucker Sex Magik is your favourite era, or Stadium Arcadium, or Return of a Dream Canteen, or whatever. You know, what is your favourite era of John? If you're a John nut like I am, Fruscianteite. There you go. I've coined a new phrase. I'm a Fruscianteite. Let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, if you like the vids I do on this channel, please consider becoming a patron of Patreon. Links are down in the description box for that, as well as links to my music, where there's my album that I dedicated for John on my Bandcamp. It's called For John, and I dedicated that to it. It got to him. I don't think he ever listened to it. I highly doubt that. But yeah, it's on there if you want to listen to it. It's actually on the YouTube as well for free. It's all on here somewhere on this channel. Anyway, thank you so much indeed for watching PeopleTube, and I'll see you again. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening. I've got all emotional now and choked up. But yeah, thank you very much indeed. I'll see you again. Goodbye.